There's a rusted iron truss bridge over Miller's Creek that I haven't crossed in 40 years, even though it sits less than 5 miles from my front porch. To anyone else, the long gravel detour I take into town looks like the habit of an old man set in his inefficient ways, but they don't know the weight of that bridge. I avoid it because it's not measured in steel and rivets anymore. It's measured in silence, and the kind of silence that falls when someone leaves and never comes back the same. To drive over it now would be to drive straight through a moment I've spent a lifetime circling around. Before the silence, the bridge was the loud, beating heart of our summers. The water ran deepest there, and the shade from the willows felt like a cathedral on hot afternoons. My brother, Caleb, and I claimed the concrete pilings as our kingdom, daring each other to walk the narrow upper beams 50 feet above the slow brown water. It was a place suspended between worlds, halfway between the safety of our mother's kitchen and the wild unknown beyond the county line. We carved our initials into the soft paint, convinced we were permanent, convinced nothing important ever really changed. That certainty collapsed on a Tuesday in late November, under a sky bruised purple by an incoming storm. Caleb parked his truck in the center of the bridge and cut the engine. The metal groaned beneath us as it cooled. He didn't look at me. He stared straight ahead and told me he was leaving for the war. He said he wasn't coming back to this town, not even if he survived. When his taillights disappeared over the rise on the far end, the bridge stopped being a connection. It became a departure point, a hard line between who I was before that night and who I would be afterward. I stood there alone, not cold, but stunned by the sudden realization that the rest of my life had already begun without him in it. As the years passed and the county let the bridge rot, it became a measure of my grief. Ivy crept over the girders. Rust bled into the creek, staining the water the same dull orange as memory. They eventually closed the road, citing structural damage, but I knew the truth had nothing to do with engineering. I couldn't look at the bridge without feeling his idling engine in my teeth. It became a monument to everything we never said. A border between the boy who had a brother and the man who folded a flag into a triangle and learned to live with the weight of it. Yesterday, for reasons I can't fully explain, I finally pulled my truck up to the barricade and shut off the engine. The silence was still there, but the air smelled of wet earth and honeysuckle, just like it always had. I walked onto the bridge until I reached the center. I found our initials, barely visible now beneath decades of rust and time. I didn't cry, I didn't speak. I just rested my hand on the cold, flaking metal and felt its solid presence beneath my palm. The water moved steadily below, indifferent to my history, carrying leaves toward the river. I stood there until the sun dipped low, then turned back. I left the bridge to hold up the sky on its own, and drove home without taking the long way around anymore.